In the ring, they were gods, invincible, unstoppable. But what happens when the lights fade and the crowds disappear? Let's pull back the curtain on boxing's dark secret, the devastating injuries that haunt these warriors long after their final bell has rung. Chris Byrd, the heavyweight champion's battle with encephalopathy. Chris Byrd was once at the top of the heavyweight division. A silver medalist in the Olympics and a former world champion, Byrd was known for his speed and technical skills. But like many boxers before him, he couldn't escape the cruel fate that awaits many in this brutal sport. In 2018, nearly a decade after his retirement, Byrd revealed that he was suffering from a condition called encephalopathy. This form of brain damage, often referred to as the heavyweight world champion's disease, is caused by repeated head trauma. It's a condition that has plagued many legendary heavyweights like Muhammad Ali, Floyd Patterson, and Joe Louis. For Byrd, the effects of encephalopathy were devastating. He described excruciating pain in his legs, saying it felt like they were on fire. The pain was so severe that he even contemplated amputation. "I'm officially a disabled person," Byrd admitted. "It's so bad that I'm thinking about leg amputation. I don't box anymore, so I don't need legs." But the physical pain wasn't the only challenge Byrd faced. The former champion also struggled with mental health issues, including thoughts of suicide. He turned to marijuana to help manage his symptoms, stating, "That's how I stay functional. Otherwise, I would have already lost my mind." Byrd's story highlights the long-term consequences of repeated head trauma in boxing. Even years after retirement, fighters can find themselves battling invisible injuries that continue to impact their daily lives. Mental health problems are unfortunately quite common among retired boxers. Byrd mentioned that many of his colleagues, including his own brothers, suffer from conditions like dementia and other mental health issues due to their boxing careers. Despite these challenges, there's a glimmer of hope in Byrd's story. In September 2020, he announced plans to return to the ring, claiming he had managed to soften the impact of his illness. While this announcement raised eyebrows and concerns among many, it also showcased Byrd's resilience and determination to overcome his health struggles. Before we step back into the ring for our next brutal tale, if you haven't already, do not forget to like and subscribe. Gary Goodridge, the MMA pioneer's struggle with dementia. Switching gears from boxing to MMA, we find another sobering tale of a fighter grappling with the long-term effects of combat sports. Gary Goodridge, known as Big Daddy, was a pioneer in the early days of MMA. Back then, the sport was vastly different from what we see today. Fighters often competed multiple times in one night and could return to the cage just a month later. There were fewer regulations and less emphasis on fighter safety compared to today's more structured and regulated environment. Goodridge debuted in professional MMA at the age of 30, competing in UFC 8. Despite being considered an average-level fighter, he was popular due to his spectacular performances. Standing at 191 centimeters, Goodridge always excited the crowd with his fights. Throughout his career, Goodridge participated in over 40 MMA fights and an additional 40 kickboxing matches. He faced well-known fighters like Don Frye, Valentino Overeem, and Bob Schreiber. However, his career ended on a somber note with an 8-fight losing streak. The toll of these numerous fights and the constant blows to the head eventually caught up with Goodridge. In 2012, 2 years after his retirement, he was diagnosed with degenerative dementia. This condition causes memory issues, speech impediments, and severe headaches. In Goodridge's case, it has significantly impacted his daily life and ability to function normally. Goodridge's struggle with dementia has been heart-wrenching. He's admitted that without medication, he likely would have taken his own life. The former fighter experiences depression and has difficulty maintaining employment due to his memory issues. "I could get a job," he said. "I forget I had the job. It doesn't get better. This is the best that you will be." Despite these challenges, Goodridge continues to fight in his own way. He still lives in Canada with his supportive family and occasionally visits the gym to help train beginners. However, his story serves as a stark reminder of the potential long-term consequences of a career in combat sports. Magomed Abdusalamov, a promising career cut short. The story of Magomed Abdusalamov is a stark reminder of how quickly a boxer's fortunes can change in the ring. On November 2, 2013, the 23-year-old Russian heavyweight was on the cusp of greatness. With a perfect 18-0 record and 2 Russian championships under his belt, Abdusalamov was set to face Cuban boxer Mike Perez at Madison Square Garden. This wasn't just another fight for Abdusalamov. A win against Perez would have put him in contention for a WBC title shot against then-champion Vladimir Klitschko. It was a high-stakes fight that could have launched him into boxing superstardom. The fight was brutal from the start, with both boxers delivering punishing blows. However, as the rounds progressed, it became clear that Abdusalamov was in trouble. Despite this, the fight wasn't stopped, and Abdusalamov continued to take heavy punishment. The consequences of this fight were catastrophic for Abdusalamov. While the exact details of his injuries aren't provided in the given text, it's clear that the damage was severe and life-altering. The once promising boxer found himself facing a new, incredibly challenging chapter in his life. Abdusalamov faces daily challenges and relies heavily on the support of his wife and daughters. His boxing career ended abruptly, and he now faces a different kind of fight, one for recovery and adaptation to his new circumstances. Abdusalamov's story underscores the importance of proper oversight and medical care in boxing. It raises questions about when fights should be stopped and how to better protect boxers from life-altering injuries. Gerald McClellan, a cautionary tale of boxing's darkest side. Perhaps one of the most tragic stories in boxing history is that of Gerald McClellan. On February 25, 1995, McClellan faced British boxer Nigel Benn for the WBC super middleweight title in a fight that would change both men's lives forever. McClellan was known as the Miniature Tyson due to his impressive technique, speed, reflexes, and devastating punching power, reminiscent of the legendary heavyweight Mike Tyson. His reputation preceded him as he stepped into the ring that fateful night. The fight between McClellan and Benn was brutal from the start. McClellan knocked Benn down in the first round, sending him through the ropes. But Benn recovered, and the fight continued with both men exchanging crushing blows. As the fight progressed, McClellan began to show signs of distress. He repeatedly took out his mouthpiece and blinked often. In the 10th round, after taking several blows to the back of the head, McClellan took a knee. He tried to get up but fell to his knee again. The aftermath of this fight was devastating for McClellan. He lost consciousness several times after the fight, couldn't see, and had difficulty breathing. He was rushed to the hospital where doctors removed a hematoma from his brain. He spent 11 days in a coma. McClellan can barely hear or see, and his memory is severely impaired. He requires constant care, which is provided by his sister Lisa. The cost of his care exceeds $70,000 per year. Many famous athletes provide annual financial support to McClellan and his sister to help cover these costs, showing a sense of community and responsibility within the boxing world. McClellan's story is a stark reminder of the potential consequences of boxing. It raises questions about the role of referees, cornermen, and promoters in protecting fighters' health. Don King, McClellan's promoter at the time, has been criticized for prioritizing profit over fighter safety. As we look at these stories, from Chris Byrd to Gerald McClellan, we see a common thread. The impact of a boxing career often extends far beyond retirement. These athletes face ongoing battles with physical pain, cognitive impairment, and mental health issues. As the final bell rings on our journey through boxing's battlefield of broken dreams, one thing is crystal clear. The fight never truly ends for these warriors. Their battles in the ring may be over, but the war against their own bodies and minds rages on.